3HL 104.5, The Zone, Britt Doherty, Don Davenport, Ron Slay. The executive producer of 3HL is Zeph.
What's up?
Slay Dog, I saw a little package downstairs when I went to go get Easton Freeze from AtoZ Sports.
Yeah, man, and she told us early on, man. So shout out to Karen. I appreciate a nice little care package to get well from the surgery.
That
supposed
was
to take place.
sweet.
And the Happy 4th. And what the Happy 4th is all about.
And happy birthday, too.
You did
Oh, it's
not
his birthday, too.
get 4th of July
4th of
headbands.
July headbands. Oh, and wristbands. I'm like a globetrotter.
my
You're going to be
gosh.
I started saying ABA player, but Globetrotter.
Yeah, man, don't put me in ABA. I got drafted to the CBA.
Did you?
When I went undrafted in the league.
Did you?
That night. It's kind of crazy. Like, nobody.
Which
I'm not
team
coming out
drafted
of-
you?
Some, North Dakota or something.
Sioux City Falls?
No, it was North Dakota. I'm like, dog, I'm not coming up there. I'm not even trying to get my life together. But yeah, thank you, Karen. Salute to you, man. That's a hell of a gift. See, that's what I'm talking about.
I like
listeners.
that bag, too.
There's a big ass bottle of something in there, too.
Yeah, it is. It's
Oh,
Bowman Brothers,
hey.
Virginia. I played high school ball in Virginia, so I'll accept this.
Yes. It's brown
We
water.
got David Crockett in the middle of it too. David is surrounded by some other guys with some muskets
Some other guys with muskets.
and a hatchet. One guy got a hatchet.
Oh, boy.
One guy got a knife. One guy got Davey and some other guy pointing got a musket. Pretty cool. Thank you, Karen.
There you go. Easton Freeze from AtoZ Sports here. What up, Easton?
Hello. How are y'all?
Would you like to open this up, Easton?
It's a little early. It's a little early on a weekday, but tempting.
It's 4:20.
Well,
Listen to Babs come back at you on that.
I don't know. I'm trying to, I don't know, be an adult. Eventually, I'll probably
we
give
don't
up
do
on
that.
that. Right, yeah. I've not been beaten down quite yet, I guess.
It's 5:24, about 180 miles from
That's
here.
a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
I heard Zeph was monitoring you guys, talking with Jeff Watson, MD, about Achilles injury.
Monitoring us.
Yeah, so let's just checking you out, making sure everything's
We did talk.
copacetic.
I talked to somebody so much smarter than me today. It was good.
Well, you're not getting that here. Achilles injuries. We've seen them in the NBA. We're talking about Jason Tatum with the Celtics. What do they do moving forward now? Obviously, Halliburton's going to miss the season now.
Dame.
The Titans are dealing with that as well with Cushenberry. And we keep talking about how, I know you guys do too, but like talking to Titans fans, I don't feel like people have the necessary attention on this little potential issue. No. Is he going to be okay and good to go and 100% and up to his level of play? Because big man with Achilles, that's even tougher.
I don't know. That's a big question that I think you're right. We're not really talking a whole lot about because there's not a whole lot of precedent that comes to mind, for a big man and an Achilles injury. It happens, but we don't really think about it in the same way, maybe like an ACL, something that we see more often. And the interesting thing from a medical standpoint is there may be no worse thing to do in terms of a sports injury than an Achilles, just like statistically speaking. It's weird. It feels like we've reached this point in 2025 where we've almost solved all of the sports injury things. Like all these things that would probably ruin your whole career 20 or 30 years ago. We now are like, okay, give the guy 8 months. He'll be back. He'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. I mean, torn ACLs are like...
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like, 6 months later, a guy's running a 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
So
Here's where I get tired of the narrative is he'll be fine, he'll be back, blah, blah, blah. And then you get into the season and he's not playing up to his ability or whatever. And then the narrative suddenly changes to, it happens to every injury.
Right.
Oh, it's year 2 where they're better. And I get so tired of that.
Well, the Achilles
So I wanna
is so
get in front of it.
it's uniquely difficult to return from, and it's like a third of the guys. The doctor gave us the numbers. It's like a third of the guys return to their peak. A third of the guys are never the same, and a third retire. Now that's
not good
and it's not good. The thing about it though that you have to understand is that an Achilles injury. So like
Glad we started here.
I know. ACLs happen to like 18-year-olds, right? Like that's a thing that is not super age dependent. Achilles is something that tends to happen to guys in their 30s, like 30 to 50 years old is when it tends to happen to anybody, non-athletes as well.
Yeah, we
And so a
always
lot
talk
of the-
about it's the old man playing pickup
Playing
basketball.
basketball.
So when the
True.
32-year-old in the NFL tears his Achilles, sometimes you just call it a career, you know?
It doesn't have to be basketball, bro. The 30-year-olds running track or
said it too.
30-year-olds playing golf or pickleball or something like that. It's got to be basketball.
That's what
Sorry,
Dr. Jeff
Clay.
Watson, that's the example he used, though, is
Yeah.
this usually 35-year-old pickup basketball guy
Come on,
is
man.
the torn Achilles. So,
Look at that.
Old man injury.
Hey, pickleball though, with the expansive interest in pickleball,
Yeah.
I've heard about the injury situation
I
with that
believe it.
sport is really high.
yeah. Well, because an Achilles, you step funny and
Yeah.
pop, and then it's over.
So the typical recovery is 4 to 6 months with back to full athletic play in a year.
Right.
So where would that put Cushenberry? Let's say if he's in the 1/3 that actually makes it back.
Right. Well, so opening day, September 7th, would be 10 months and 3 days or something like that. Just over 10 months. So, again, just like pure injury analytics wise, there's a decent chance that he's back, and there's a slightly less decent chance that he's back and good, right? Because there's two questions here is, can you play? And then, okay, if you can play, are you close to good again? Because how often do we see guys, like you said, come back and then for 6 weeks, 10 weeks, a whole season, it's just not the same. So I think that fans, to your original point, are just kind of hand waving this situation more than they should and assuming he'll be good. And the Titans are hoping he'll be good, but that's all you can do at this point is hope until they get the pads on and he actually tests that foot and tests the weight bearing and the explosiveness and all that. You can't know. It's also the last thing I'll say is with an Achilles injury, and I didn't realize this until I talked to the doctor today, like with an ACL, 2 days post-op, you're already starting to do like rehab stuff. Right. With the Achilles, you don't touch it for like 4 to 8 weeks, depending on your situation, because there's a much higher risk of it, the shearing of the stitches. So you have to be so much more patient with getting back up to weight training. And so the muscle atrophy in your calf is a much bigger deal than the muscle atrophy when you have an ACL or something like that, because you do have to sit around and do nothing for longer.
Now,
That's tough.
all the reports from Titans camp, from you, from, everybody about Cushenberry are that it's going really well.
Yes. So that's like,
And we've seen
that's the
him.
important thing. Is
Yes.
that for this specific story, we don't have any reason yet to be concerned. It's just
Right.
generally Achilles are more concerning than fans, I think, are paying attention to this story.
So let's say, worst case scenario, because this is what I like to do.
Worst case scenario.
yeah.
She always goes worst case.
Worst case is he retires and it's over.
Exactly. He's
Yeah.
in the freaking 2/3 and doesn't make it back, which by the way, that's like kind of a big
Yeah.
percentage.
He's also not 30 though. I mean, he's young in terms of Achilles injuries, so that's
How
something
old
going
is
to
he?
28,
What's Cushenberry?
27. He's not. I'll look it up. I think he's
younger than
27 or 28.
Then I
Look it
thought
up.
I think he's 28.
Okay.
But I thought he was like a 31-year-old dude. But this came up not too long ago. Is it either 27 or 28?
27.
27.
Yeah.
27.
November
years old.
22nd.
Thank you.
There you
He's a spring chicken. He'll be all right.
It'll be
fine.
It'll be fine.
Okay. Same as Halliburton. Okay, so worst case scenario, he doesn't make it back. What do the Titans have there?
So they have a couple of contingency plans. Last year, when they needed somebody to fill in for him, the primary guy was Corey Levin, who has been around forever. Everybody knows the Corey Levin, and he's one of my favorite linemen because I feel like you know exactly what you're getting with Corey Levin. He is not going to be a disaster. It's not going to be super special, but like in terms of backups, I trust him to come in. I trust him to come in though and be able to communicate with the quarterback and not get killed on 3 or 4 plays and completely ruin 3 or 4 plays. So I think that he is somebody that they're going to probably look to first, if I had to guess, if they need somebody to actually play at the beginning of the year. And then Sam Mustipher is a guy that they brought in the middle of free agency at some point, who has a decent experience playing on the interior of the offensive line. I believe most of his experience is not last year, but years previous. So I don't know what he looks like today. We'll see when he gets the pads on. But those are the top 2 guys. They're pretty set at the interior, though. Like even Jackson Slater, who they drafted in the 5th round, there's no reason why they couldn't cross-train him at center, and maybe he's the guy that they lean on. So I'm not super worried about their contingency plan. I am worried about the guy that's supposed to be the starter.
That's cool. So finally got a little bit of depth there where we're not scratching our head like,
I think so.
Who they grabbing off the street this week to play tackle or anything like that? Okay.
Well, the tackle depth is still concerning, but like what team isn't that way? You know what I mean?
It's hard to find tackles.
The thing that kind of hit me, right?
We definitely know.
The thing that kind of hit me about the depth of this offensive line group that made me realize, okay, it is better, is that this time last year we were talking about guys like John Ojukwu and Jalen Duncan as like offensive linemen 5, 6, 7, and now we're talking about them as, are they going to make the team as the 10th lineman? So that's a step in the right direction. You hope that like there's still a drop off from the 5 guys that are supposed to be starters to the rest of the guys. So
but there always is.
Yeah, there always is. So that's just the way that the NFL works. Usually the healthy offensive lines are the ones that go far, and the ones that aren't lose.
3HL presented by Ferguson Home, fergusonhome.com. Make sure you check those guys out. Easton Freeze, AtoZ Sports, in studio with us.
I want to ask you real quick, understanding the wide receiver room, where it is, we keep hearing about Elliott, Io Manor.
Yep.
Yeah, let's just not break it up. Io Manor, Slay. Okay. DK is another one. Restrepo is another one, but are we overlooking just what Van Jefferson will bring? What do you actually think we would give him? Because we know we said with Lockett, Calvin Ridley, those are sold. But what about Van Jefferson?
I think Van Jefferson is a lock to make the roster as a role player. I definitely underestimated what he could be when they first signed him, because I went and I watched the Pittsburgh tape of his last year and was thoroughly underwhelmed. But number one, that wasn't the greatest situation in the world for a wide receiver in Pittsburgh last year. Number two, just seeing him up against the rest of that wide receiver room, the way that he moves and handles himself in practice so far, like, it was super clear to me within a day or two that I was wrong to think that he might not even make the team. I think that he's definitely making the team as your wide receiver 4 or 5. Again, he's a role player guy. He's going to give you something on special teams if you need him to, and he's going to, be a depth receiver for you that you hopefully don't have to lean on because these rookies step up.
Right. Okay.
Inside linebacker opposite Cody Barton. You mentioned James Williams as a guy that you think might end up in that starting role. Why?
Yeah, well, because that's my guess. I just look at the dudes and
he's got the highest ceiling, I would think.
I think so. Physically, yes, because he's so funny. He's so tall. He's like a 6'5" linebacker in the middle of the defense. So just looking at him in practice, he looks out of place. He looks like a safety playing linebacker, but he has the athleticism that I think that they want out of that second linebacker role, to be able to get sideline to sideline, get downhill in a hurry, be less thinking, more reacting. And we saw a little bit from him last year. The flashes I liked. I do think that it's a 3-man race between him and Cedric Gray and Vanderbilt legend Anthony Orji, who I was also completely writing off going into the spring session. And then every time we talked to any of the coaches, they'd bring him up. And then I would talk to, people who, hand up, I didn't watch a ton of Anthony Orji's Saints tape last year, but I have friends who are sicker than I that did. And they were like, there's something there. And so I do think that he's going to be a part of that competition.
What is he missing? Like, why did they release him?
Yeah. He's been cut twice.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, that was the biggest question. That was the biggest question that the person. So James Foster, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's a really brilliant guy when it comes to tape and X's and O's, and he watched that tape and was like, I don't know why he got cut based on this. Yeah. The Saints are, who knows what the Saints are doing these days. So, maybe there isn't a great reason. But the other thing about the second linebacker position is I'm not super worried about who's going to win the job, because I don't think the position is super important. Like, just philosophically, if you ask me, what position on your defense would you like to be the weakest? It's easily the second linebacker, because it doesn't even have to be a starting position. It can be a rotational position. This team is built to where if they want to run 5-1-5 fronts and get an extra DB in there, and maybe Kevin Winston is up to speed and they want to roll him down into the box, they want to get an odd man front and get, Sebastian Joseph Day's hand in the ground next to Jeff and Tavondre Sweat, they can do that and just let Cody Barton quarterback in the middle alone. You can't do that all the time, but you can do it a lot and turn that second linebacker position into a rotational role instead of a starter, especially they're getting burnt all the time.
And if they're scheming pressure, which was I was going to ask, can they generate pressure without scheming up pressure?
This team's going to have to scheme a lot of pressure.
Which is what you were talking about with some of those packages,
Yeah.
Somebody whoop somebody sometime. I ain't got a scheme. Like, go get them. That's the scheme. Go get them.
Because when you scheme, you leave yourself susceptible.
Yeah. All right. Should we move to the back end of the defense?
Do whatever you want.
Nervous back there too, Babsy.
The entire question is what the heck with L'Jarius Sneed, and it's A, what the heck with legal stuff that's going on, and then it's B, what the heck with injury stuff and can he stay healthy that's going on. So, but the Titans don't seem to be concerned with either.
Not even a little bit.
You were asked about this in your mailbag, and we all discussed this yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
We thought that was an interesting angle for you to go, for sure.
It's fascinating.
Every time I've brought him up, publicly or privately, with any of the coaches, dating back to, as soon as the season was over, back in January, I was asking him about the situation. Not the legal situation. We didn't learn about that yet. It has been, notably consistent, not worried even a little bit. And so, to the extent that I'm sitting there thinking, are you sure? Are you sure you shouldn't be a little more worried than you are? Because you don't seem worried. And, they know the situation better than I. They know L'Jarius better than I, of course.
Also, if they were worried at all, they would want that out there to maybe put a little pressure on him.
Yeah, you'd think so. Yeah. Or just to soften the blow if they are starting to think this is going to be a total crash out of a trade. So you would think so. And again, publicly and privately, there have been times when I've been like, okay, well, maybe it's been posturing. But then when there's been no reason for anybody to sit there and lie to me, it's the exact same thing. So the legal thing, I've not spent a ton of time looking into it. That's not really my lane. From what I do know, Paul Kaharski's been the most on top of it. Yeah. That's the thing. Wake me when it's a criminal case. Something generally doesn't smell right to me when we're talking about, a guy that maybe tried to murder somebody, but it's not in the criminal court of law. That doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah. And apparently they have video of it, and we're still sitting here.
I also heard the attorney bringing the charges go on another local radio station, and I was thoroughly unimpressed by that. So it all seems like a thing that I won't end up caring about. And the bottom line, cynically, if he's good at football, nobody's going to care. And if he's bad at football, people are going to care. So wake me when the football is good or bad. As for whether or not the football is going to be good or bad, he's another guy that you have two big questions with, like Cushenberry. One, are you going to be able to play? And two, okay, well, the last time we saw you play, it wasn't terrible. But there was a lot. You were a fine cornerback the first month last year, but you're being paid to be one of, if not the best cornerback in the whole league.
Elite.
So are you going to be that guy again, right? Ever? And I don't know the answer to that question. The coaching staff seems to think that he's going to be that guy. The only argument I can make for him to be that guy again is that cornerback is a position that's uniquely finicky year to year. Some positions really trend up or down consistently because the nature of what they do is more in their control than others. Cornerback is the position that, what's the best way to put this, I guess, is that the margin you live on is narrower than others. Because you can have a cornerback season where 97% of your snaps, you are nails locked down. But if 12 times a year you're burnt toast and you allow a 30 to 40 to 50 yard touchdown, you kind of had a bad season, right? Your passer rating allowed is bad and your touchdowns allowed. So it only takes a couple of plays to be a bad cornerback. It's kind of like an offensive lineman where a cornerback you don't hear about is usually a good cornerback kind of thing. So year to year, we've seen even the guys we consider to be the best of the best, like a Jalen Ramsey. You track his numbers year to year. It's kind of a roller coaster throughout his career. And you sometimes can't explain why did he suddenly get bad after this year and then return to form the next year. It's just the nature of the position. So maybe L'Jarius Sneed had an unlucky run of 4 games before he got hurt last year, and he's going to come back and be that guy. we'll see. I mean, it kind of might make or break the whole defense, so no pressure, right?
Very much so.
Easton Freeze with us from AtoZ Sports. When we come back, how different will this offense look in year 2 for Cali, moving from Will Levis to Cam Ward at quarterback? We'll talk about that next. 3HL 104.5 The Zone. 3HL 104.5 The Zone. Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ron Slay talking Titans football with Easton Freeze from AtoZ Sports. Kinds of things you're working on the next few weeks with everyone gone.
I am going position by position for the most part, talking about the different players in detail that I don't really have an opportunity to kind of give the full breadth of what I know about every guy outside of these couple of weeks. And I also need something to talk about. So I talked about the quarterbacks in detail yesterday, starting on the running backs today. And then a lot of, fun lists, top 10 this, top 5 that. And then we'll blink and it'll be time for training camp.
I mean, it's crazy to think about the, what did I say yesterday? The Hall of Fame game is 37 days now?
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right around the corner.
I mean, awful football, but football nonetheless.
But it's football. And that definitely signifies the start of everything.
It's crazy.
At Easton Freeze on X, where you can get him. We keep going back to your 90-minute conversation with Brian Callahan back in, when was it, January?
It is January, yeah.
Where he kind of went through in pretty good detail the disconnect on offense between play caller and skill set of quarterback that he was given, right? And that Will Levis's strengths weren't necessarily what he wants to incorporate within the framework of what he wants to do offensively, and he was trying to match that up and all of these things. How different do you think it will look in year 2 for Cali? Number one, learning from year 1 as a play caller, but also moving from Will Levis to Cam Ward. 2 very different quarterbacks.
I mean, I think it'll feel really different for sure. If Cam is the guy that we think that he's going to be, Callahan comes from a family of systems where one of the common themes is just the volume passing and not eliminating a run game, but making the run game more of supplemental to a passing game that supplements the run game through glorified run plays through the passing game, right? Setting up screens and dump offs and stuff that once the ball is in the ball carrier's hands, you could start the film there, and it's essentially a run play. And so the Bengals do a lot of that. The Broncos in Peyton's twilight years did a lot of that stuff.
A lot of that.
It requires a quarterback who can run the show beyond just knowing how to get through his reads and not make dumb decisions, right? It requires somebody, I think, a lot like Cam, who is willing to be involved heavily on every single play, make important decisions at the line of scrimmage, getting the protections set correctly, somebody who's able to, stand in the pocket and have a feel for the pocket for when the pocket is breaking down and when you need to extend versus when you need to live to play another down. A lot of things that the Titans didn't do very well last year. And so I think that they will, if Cam is what we hope that he is, be a little bit heavier in the passing game. Nothing crazy. I mean, Cam Ward's not going to set any records this year. I think that'd be pretty dumb to do with a rookie. But I do think that it will be noticeable how much more they're working through the quarterback than they were last year.
Easton Freeze with us on 3HL. DHB on YouTube just said this show should know that Easton had never seen Remember the Titans until last week.
It's true.
When he was forced to watch it.
I was not forced to watch it. I chose to subject myself. I bet, people on the A to Z show make fun of me all the time for not. I generally dislike sports movies.
Is that what it is? So you stay away from sports movies in general?
Correct. Like I've seen Miracle. I've seen now Remember the Titans, and that's kind of the end of the list.
Wow.
What about Major League?
Couldn't tell you a thing about it.
Oh my gosh, Easton.
I like real sports.
Hoosiers?
What is compelling to me about real sports is that it's not scripted, and I don't know what's going to happen at the end.
Hoosiers?
I'm taken out of it when I'm watching a movie that I know is scripted and does have a set ending. No, I don't know a thing about Hoosiers. But every week this summer at A to Z Sports morning show on Fridays, I am reviewing a new film that the chat forces me. They vote the previous week. So this week, it's not just sports movies, by the way. It's also like campy 90s movies that were slightly before my time. So this week, they're forcing me to watch Billy Madison for the first time.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a really good one.
I'll be watching that and talking about that on Friday morning.
A to Z Sports chat, get in on Major League.
That was one of the voting options last week, and it will be again this week. So there's a chance that's one of the ones.
That's her favorite movie of all time.
My favorite movie ever.
Is it? Okay.
Ever.
All right. Well, maybe I'll be watching it soon.
perhaps questionable parenting, but I
That's fair.
I did watch it very young.
Okay.
And it is the best.
It is good.
It is not clean.
Okay.
How much better can the offensive line be with all the movement there? With Dan Moore coming in, with Skoronski playing so well at the end of the season and learning and growing, Cushenberry coming back, Zeitler, the 14-year vet, J.C. Latham moving to the right side. How much better can they be?
I shouldn't open my mouth about the offensive line until they play games. Because
Right? I'm kind of scared to say, well, they're going to be better.
What do I say? It can always get worse.
Right. The opposite of what most people say, which is it can't possibly get worse.
That's usually what our conversation
They
is.
say that, and I'm like, don't
Wrong.
even.
It's the opposite. It always can get worse.
It can always be worse.
The reason why I don't want to say anything is because in my heart of hearts, I think that they're going to be pretty good and maybe really good. This is the first time since the 2020-2021 version of the Titans offensive line where you had 5 butt kickers leading the way for a Derrick Henry, Arthur Smith scheme at the peak of their powers. It's the first time since then that you can look at each of the 5 starting positions and there's not really a possibility for a glaring hole to me. And that's, whether or not you believe in Dan Moore, I guess, is the Rorschach test for whether or not you think there could be a glaring hole. I do think that Dan Moore he's been aptly described as the most average starting tackle in the league. So I think that he's like the 16th best starting tackle in the league. And something that I kind of had my mind changed on about offensive line play, but tackle in particular this year. I spoke with Brandon Thorne when the Titans signed Dan Moore. And if folks don't know who he is, he's like the foremost thought leader when it comes to offensive line play in NFL media today. Like people lean on him when it comes to, he does a lot of work with offensive linemen and coaches. It's like he knows that game way more than I do. And something that he tried to explain to me in this interview that we did was that tackle play, it's awesome when you have an elite guy who you can just leave on an island and he's clearly the best and he can take over a game on the offensive line, all of those things. But what's way more important in the NFL is tackle is kind of a benchmark position. Like you have to be this tall to ride the ride. And it's way more important to be above a certain threshold than to be below. Because what he said was there's not really anybody in the league that plays tackle that sits in between whether or not you're clearly a starter or clearly not. You either can play as a starting NFL tackle or you cannot. And it's pretty obvious who is who.
That's a good point.
And he thinks that Dan Moore, for all of the things that he leaves to be desired at times, is clearly a starting tackle, and he will be good enough of the time for you to operate an offense. The Titans have had the guy on the other end of that, never good enough to operate the offense for 2 or 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah.
So I
turnstile.
I think the number one most important thing about this offense, besides Cam Ward being good at football, is whether or not this offensive line can work, and if it can be as good as I think that it can be. I think if you change nothing about the Titans last year, even the quarterback situation, but you take the offensive line, which was not serviceable, and simply make them serviceable, they are a significantly better football team already. So I think that that's the way that they get better in a hurry this year, is just be decent on the offensive line. It's so hard to come by. I asked Brian Callahan about this during minicamp. It's like, when was the last time you got to be a part of coaching a team with a good offensive line? Yeah. And he said, there was a Detroit year that we had a decent line. So it's been a while, and I'm excited to see, because those Bengals years, even though they were good, had bad offensive lines. Joe Burrow just made it work.
Really bad.
So we'll see.
Good thing. It means you believe in Bill Callahan.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Easton Freeze, AtoZ Sports, at Easton Freeze on X. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate
Always
you.
a pleasure, guys. Thank you for having me.
Watch your movies, man.
That's right.